welcome back for another Star Trek, the official Starships collection review. Before me now I have issue 120, the USS Bozeman NCC-1941, featured and seen in the episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, Cause and Effect, one of the most popular and famous episodes in the Next Generation's entire run. So yeah, as you can see, there is a awesome looking magazine and an even more awesome looking ship here to the right. So let me toss the ship out of the way and we can dive right into the magazine. And there it is, issue 120. It is considered Soyuz class, launched sometime in the 23rd century. I'm probably going to guess in the late 23rd century. It was 243 meters long and has a maximum warp speed of 9.2. Neat image of the ship on the cover there. I believe it's the same image or similar image as seen on the Reliant magazines, Saratoga, on the Reliant and Saratoga magazines, with some of the other details, chains or whatnot, but still cool nonetheless. And so let's get into it. Turn the page. Once again, specification: considered Soyuz class in the 23rd century, 243 meters long, 200 crew members approximately, warp 9.2, and has phaser emitters, photon torpedoes, and its captain is Morgan Bateson himself, played by one of the actors from the TV show Cheers, if I'm not mistaken. And interestingly to note, it says a crew of 200. So by the time this ship emerged from the temporal rift or causality loop or whatnot in the episode, that's about 200 people who are well over the age of 100, which I think is pretty interesting. So 200 people were displaced from their own time, including but not limited to the ship itself. So anyway, moving right along, you have a neat image here, as well as some more information and text along the side there. And here's the famous shot of it emerging from the rift and directly in front of the Enterprise D. And so yeah, moving along, you have another cool CG rendering of the ship in Earth orbit, something we never did see on the show. And more text about it, of course, and repeating time and so on and so forth. And here is the infamous crash scene or screen cap of that. But from the looks of it, that might actually be at the end when the crash was actually averted. And more decals there or details there. And there's Captain Bateson himself. You turn the page and you have the plan view showing you where the various components are, what they do, as well as trivia. And for those of you who are interested, the Bozeman crew wore the Wrath of Khan era, movie era style uniforms because this ship was from Kirk's time, at least in that era. So that's kind of cool. And it's also interesting to note that this is a Miranda class variant. Miranda class don't have all the extra sensor pods or whatnot here. So yeah. And here is a section on the creation of the Bozeman. At least as far as altering the original USS Reliant model, seen in Star Trek II. Of course, the Reliant model has been modified, changed, renamed about maybe a half a dozen times, if not almost close to that. Various ships that have appeared, of course, from the motion picture era movies through the early years of Next Generation, and even down to the pilot of Deep Space Nine. Let's just see if I can name them. The Saratoga's one, the USS Lantry, of course, the Bozeman here. Let's see what else. There's the other USS Saratoga from Star Trek IV. There's the USS Britain, and I'm sure there are many others, but those are the ones that I can name at the moment. So yeah, you can see here the model in different forms, and this is a nice little section talking about the various changes this model went through, especially being transformed into the Bozeman And here are some drawings by Michael Okuda, where he added on some various components. So that's kind of cool. And turning the page is what I call magazine filler. This is all stuff from Star Trek Next Generation's 5th season. As you can see, here's the Bozeman itself colliding with the Enterprise D after the engaging tractor beam moment. And here's the Enterprise D being blown to bits, as it does over and over again in that episode. And so that's a nice little section about the 5th season. And of course, more on that. And more from the season and screen caps. The introduction of the Bajorans, of course, unification with Ambassador Spock, and the famous Darmok episode, and of course, Redemption Part 1 and 2. And more on that, of course, First Duty, Power Play, and I think this was the First Mate. I think it's not the First Mate. What is it? The Outcast, excuse me. How did I not know that? And of course, one of everybody's favorite, the Inner Light. And finally, the on-screen appearance page. And I just noticed there's a shot of Riker doing his famous leg rest on a console or other piece of ship furniture. Its appearance was in cause and effect in the 5th season of The Next Generation. And of course, the ship itself was designed by Greg Jein and Michael Okuda. And as I mentioned earlier, Captain Bateson was actually one of the cast members, not on Cheers. Actually, it was Cheers, excuse me. Fraser Crane from Fraser and Cheers. And so, yeah, that rounds up the magazine for the USS Bozeman, issue 120. And next up is the SS Zosa, seen on DS9. So that ought to be cool, too. So, the back of the magazine features yet another cool image of the ship there. And now that that's over with, it's time to move on to the ship itself. Alrighty, and there it is, the USS Bozeman, probably the 3rd Miranda class type variant, or 3rd Miranda class-ish ship that we've gotten so far, even though this is Soyuz class. And I've been looking forward to this one for various reasons. And so let's get right into it. All right, and here we are. Upon examination, the model looks pretty cool. Looks pretty darn good. The paint applications are pretty spot on, nice detailing, no misaligned windows there. The detailing is especially exquisite here in the back area. The ship's registry is very crisp and clean and clear. Nice red and black there, USS Bozeman, no errors in font or anything like that. Got your Starfleet pendant there, and also on this side as well. And there are the warp nacelles, more on that in a second, with the registry numbers on both sides, of course. And, you know, the bummer here is the warp nacelles do not have the clear plastic, blue or black. I guess in this case it should be black, because that's how they appeared in the episode. And most Miranda classes that we've seen, or most Miranda class variants that we've seen, the grills are actually black. With the exception of maybe the CG models that we saw on Deep Space Nine during the Dominion War. You got your shuttle bays in the back there, simply just 1 and 2, you can barely make it out, but it's there. And there's Shuttle Bay 2, and it says USS Bozeman and NCC-1941. I like that there has these sensor pods or sensor arrays pretty much all around the ship, all around the model really, on port and starboard, the top and below, and even under here where there's normally a phaser array somewhere. Oh, well, there it is right there, the yellow mark. To be honest, I was a little disappointed that they were all sensor arrays. I was hoping that they would be like phaser turrets or phaser cannons or something. But you know what? I'm just going to pretend that they aren't sensor arrays at all, and they are actually phaser cannons, because they certainly look like it. And it would just be a cool idea if this was. Maybe this would have been an early 23rd century type of warship, but it's a science ship, I guess. Pretty cool model. I was definitely looking forward to it. The one thing that bugs me, once again, for those of you who know me all too well, is my complete distaste with the inconsistencies for these warp nacelles of all of the ships in this era. You know, for ships like the USS Curry, which they actually got right, and the upcoming Enterprise A extra large version, they actually got right, where the front of the nacelles had a white strip going down, and then you could see the black in between there. I just don't know why they can't just apply that effect all across the board for any of these ships that have the movie style warp nacelles. I just don't understand it. You know, out of all of these ships that are featured in this era, or from this era, that feature the same type of engine, I would probably say the Curry is the only one that has gotten them right. The original Enterprise refit, which is issue number 2, that got it wrong. The Enterprise A also got it wrong a year or two later. And also the Stargazer got it wrong, or the model is wrong on the model. And finally, the Janolan also got it wrong. To be fair, the Reliant model, the nacelles were damn near spot on. It had the front of the nacelles the way they were supposed to, except it was just white. But you can actually feel and see the space in between. Pretty much with a sharp black marker or Sharpie, you could easily just fill that in yourself. I guess I could do that here with a white marker. Do they even have white markers or white pens like that? Anyway, and the Janolan didn't get that right. And but the Saratoga did, which was probably a first. And then after that, it just kind of went downhill again. But other than that, and other than there being no clear plastic or just a solid black on here, it's a very solid model, and I'm very happy with it. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more like paint details or stuff in the back of the ship, but I guess I can understand maybe why it wasn't that way. And of course, on the nacelles, you have your Starfleet pendant there, Starfleet stripes, and you can just make out what it says, USS Bozeman NCC. No, it just says USS Bozeman, or Starship USS Bozeman, United Federation of Planets, with the pendant, and the ship's registry is also there in the warp nacelle. It's not on the inside, but just the outside. And the other thing is, there's a big United Federation of Planets Starship USS Bozeman on both the port and starboard sides of the ship and model. So yeah, pretty cool, and you know, pretty solid model, and I am very happy with it. Nacelle issues aside, it's a worthy addition to the collection, and one that I was kind of looking forward to having. So yeah, that, folks, rounds out the USS Bozeman seen on Star Trek The Next Generation. And of course it has a stand, but because I've run out of room, I will not be applying the model to the stand, but I will be returning it to its box to be put on the shelf until I get more shelving space to display the models. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, please feel free to drop that right here somewhere below. And then if you could please hit subscribe over here, I would be so very, very grateful. And until next time, unless history repeats itself and things repeat over and over and over again, like the causality loop or temporal loop, I will be back next time to share with you issue 121. So until then, live long and prosper.